Alcohol Beyond This Point podcast.
This isn't two podcasters talking business. This is two business guys trying to podcast. That Mike, you're gonna hold that the whole time? Oh, it stays?
I don't know.
That's impressive.
Every single episode, because I moved the mic that I speak to back and forth from my computer desk to the podcast desk, and every single time it's some like feat event. Tyler's like, how did you make that do that? And I'm like, what are you talking about? It's like, it's bent at some weird angle. Anyway, I'm going to try and keep doing the intro while he's moving the mic away from my face. Hi, my name is Willows, and welcome now called Beyond This Point podcast, the podcast where we get drunk and debate business topics. We have had two guests in our 68 episode career. And here's a third. I was thinking 3 episodes because JL was on twice.
Right.
But we have a guest on today. This is Dr. Isabel M. Hulley, who is a PhD in phytoplankton.
Which means she can diagnose all of your plankton-related illnesses.
She's a PhD in phytochemistry, a PhD and a master's in ethnobotany. She has bachelor's degrees in biology and chemistry, as well as graduating with honors from the University of Johannesburg, all the way from South Africa. Welcome to the show, Margaret.
Thank you very much for inviting me. I'm excited to be here.
Why?
Because I'm a big fan of the show.
You are way too old and well qualified to want to hang out with us. I
would say I'm like a mature fine wine, to be honest. I'm not too old. Thank you.
Yeah, way to open it with a with an insult. That's great. Good start.
Here's the thing: is that I feel like she has to get a vibe for the show.
Okay.
And actually, no.
Oh wait, we got to go with the theme. We hate the listener.
No, you hate the listener. I love the listener.
Well, why'd you open with that? Okay.
Damn it. Anyway, thanks for coming by, Tyler. How's your? You skipped last week out on me, even though it didn't snow. You're like, oh, it's snowing too much, and then it didn't snow at all.
It literally snowed. I'm not gonna get into this with you. I swore. See, Willis is this thing where he likes to deny reality, and it's just really fun and not at all extremely annoying, and it's okay. So we're not going to talk about the weather because who the fuck cares about the weather, but we are coming to you from Onanol, Manitoba, which if you Google the snowfall was really high. So that's all I'm going to say about that.
How does so you've been living in Winnipeg in Canada for how long now?
3 years, going into my 4th.
And I assume that this weather's a little bit different than what you're used to.
A lot different. We don't have snow in South Africa. So, first of all, the snow is the newest experience I had when I came here. And I was excited about the blizzard last week, so I was actually disappointed.
Yeah.
Because we just had a normal snowfall.
And then you lived in the Middle East before coming here, right?
Yeah, so I was born and raised in Johannesburg, and then I moved to the Middle East about 10 years ago. And I was teaching there for 2 years, basically, so... at an international school, got some international experience, and then I went back to South Africa, started my PhD, completed that, and then came to Canada.
So you're well-traveled, well-educated.
All the things that we aren't.
All the things that we aren't. How do you feel about that? Why do you hang out with us? Like, for context, people just think I have this random doctor on the show and I'm just insulting her immediately. You do often hang out with us, our little friend group here.
Yeah.
And why do you like any of us? I'm always very curious.
I think that the reason why I'm hanging out with people that are less, I don't know, experienced than me in terms of age and traveling, is to be an inspiration.
Oh, is that why?
She's just parroting back your question, so don't get triggered, Willows. Although that was a great start. Less
experienced.
Are you sure that it's because... Here's my theory, okay, Tyler? Back up with me on this one.
Okay.
Everyone, like, she's, like, in the upper echelon of, like, Africans. Oh, God, this is going to sound racist now that I'm like...
Be careful.
I've already committed. She's in, like, the upper echelon of Africans, right?
Sure.
But that brings her to hang out with a bunch of... When she moves to Canada, she's, like... thrown in with a bunch of drunk 20-year-olds.
Okay.
because I can tell from his eyes he's letting me just get.
I'm letting you fucking dig this hole, bro.
You know what?
so
I'm
you're-
not gonna finish.
So you're saying Pond Scum, aka our group of friends,
We're pretty bad.
is equivalent to...
The best of the best that South Africa has to offer. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that I was clear on where you were going with that. No, I think
Like
I think if you spend
She'll-
time in academic circles, it's not a fun place to be. It's a place you go to further your career.
my father's not educated in botany, but he's very interested in botany. So him and like for full context, how we know Dr. Hulley in the first place is that we met through the liquor industry here in Manitoba, and she's been doing some consulting work on my vineyard, growing grapes, because the grapes don't really grow in Manitoba. So you've been helping us out with that.
True.
But so my father has been working out there with you a little bit, and he'll see a picture of like you with my friend group on Instagram, and then I'll see him at dinner. I'll be like, why does she hang out with, like, he's like, I didn't mean it like that, but like, like
That's fair.
I'm young at heart.
young at heart. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a fair question. I ask that of your friend Daniel all the time, especially when we're, under the influence of something crazy and we're just having a weird fucking time.
And he's
he shows up and he's like pretty much sober and he's like, "Hey guys, I haven't seen you in a while." And I'm like, "What are you doing here, Daniel?" Like, no offense, bro, but like, what are you getting out of this?
Do you think that we're actually better? Like, is this some like imposter syndrome? No, what's the opposite of imposter? Yeah, imposter syndrome.
You're right.
Where always go with your gut. Do you think this is imposter syndrome, where like we think we're shitty but we're actually really good?
I don't think there's much point in talking about how good we are as people. I'm just gonna say I think this is kind of a dead end.
So the Saudi royal family owns Twitter, him.
Among many things, yes.
The irony, because like Elon Musk is trying to buy Twitter right now, and
The famous South African.
Yes,
He
thank
is
you
a-
very much.
where's he from in South Africa?
I can't remember. I know that Charlize Theron is from Benoni,
Okay.
which is a shitty place, to be honest. It's not that good.
Oh, compared to Johannesburg, which
Compared to
is
Johannesburg,
great to be in.
exactly. No, Johannesburg is better than Benoni.
My
Much better.
My favorite place in South Africa is Bloemfontein.
Oh yeah, because Tony, what's the?
Yeah, Tony Tolkien.
Sorry. There we go. So yeah, he's from Pretoria, which is literally like right next to Johannesburg.
Okay.
Elon Musk.
Yeah, the most famous person from Bloemfontein, South Africa, is J.R.R. Tolkien, who was like British, obviously born on. His father worked for like the post office when they were like occupying South Africa.
Classic.
So
yeah.
he was like born in Bloemfontein, and it's like that's half the Bloemfontein wiki is like, oh yeah, J.R.R. Tolkien was born here, and it's like he's not even South African. Like, I just think that's funny.
Yeah, he was part of the classic apartheid post office.
Well, I think it was before that, right?
Yeah, I mean Postmasters. I guess probably a different system, but yeah, Postmasters used to be a big deal, right?
This was like pre-World Wars,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, Postmaster was like what a lot of cities got named after the postmasters, so that was a big deal. So
business
it's not
idea.
nothing.
Oh, anyway, I'm not doing okay today. I'm very scatterbrained.
Scatterbrain. Okay, well, Margaret, what, if anything, would you want to like? What do you want to learn in Canada? Like, I mean, obviously we have. So there's literally no better place in the world for botany I can imagine than South Africa in terms of like it's like the fruit.
Cradle of the world, right?
It's the cradle of humanity, right?
True.
So it's an incredible place to learn about that, obviously. But now
Absolutely.
here, I mean, obviously you probably came here more for just than just for like educational pursuits.
Yeah.
Like, do you want to kind of talk about why you came here, why you made the decision, or what you found here? Like,
Yeah, absolutely.
what's your story?
Yeah, so first of all, I was privileged enough to study in the Cape region in South Africa, which consists of about 60% endemism, which means that 60% of the plants growing there grows nowhere else in the world.
Wow.
So I'm very proud of that, and I know about a lot of the plants growing there and the uses and things. But the reason why I came to Canada wasn't really actually to pursue my ethnobotanical career. basically, since I'm a traveler at heart, in order to increase my traveling abilities, coming to Canada was actually one of my pursuits to get experience and become a citizen and get the golden ticket.
Why do you call it the golden ticket?
Well, you know what? With the South African passport, we need to always apply for visas wherever we need to go, which takes a lot of time and effort, and sometimes it may not be as successful as we hope it to be. But if you have any other type of passport, like a USA or a Canadian passport, that changes the whole ball game.
Yeah,
basically.
Canadian passport, famously very, very powerful, right?
Yeah, so that is one of the reasons why I'm here. The others would be basically as well for experience, obviously. I mean, I haven't had much experience in the Northern Hemisphere. So, that's basically one of the main reasons.
Well, welcome home. There's a famous Simpsons gag where they drive into Winnipeg and the sign says, welcome to Winnipeg. We were born here. What's your excuse? So,
Exactly.
Yeah, no, but it is true to say, yeah, there's nothing more powerful than a Canadian passport in terms of like being a citizen of the world.
For sure. Because you have access to like unrestricted access pretty much to the United States and Mexico.
Yeah,
and then
I think in terms of like no visa travel,
I think it's one of the highest.
I think it is the highest.
And is it? Is that true?
I'm pretty sure with like in terms of like just strictly no visa travel.
And then it's also well respected abroad. Like I
remember, as an American, you're going to get more flack than you will as a Canadian.
After 9/11, George Bush was told any Americans traveling abroad to tell people they're Canadian if they ask.
Yeah,
because he was like worried about random violence.
I mean, they had good reason to be. They're fucking awful people.
True.
You made a good choice. Thanks for coming.
Absolutely.
Thanks for coming up north.
I'm here to enrich you guys.
So academically in Canada, obviously you've worked for a gin company, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. So basically, when I just arrived in Canada, I had a connection to one of the local distilleries here. And they actually reached out to me and asked me to help them as well with some of their distilling processes. But because of my botanical background, making a gin is exactly my league. The methods that we use are the same that I've used with my practicals, my lab work that I did back in South Africa. I do distill essential oils, and we basically have the same process here as well with distilling the botanicals from gin. So for this local distillery, what I would usually do is I would do some fractional small-scale distillations of the different botanicals, and we are hopefully going to use that to pursue a potential gin class to the public in the near future.
So like halfway through when I was talking about your credentials, I almost fell asleep. But swinging back and like, oh wait, you can use this to make better gin. Now I'm interested all of a sudden. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of like, we were talking yesterday, Tyler, about how a psychology degree is commonly used in marketing.
Right.
But you wouldn't think that being like, I'm going to go into psychology. You wouldn't be like, oh, I'm going to go into marketing and make billboards that trick people. You know what I mean? Like, but same way, I don't know. Well, I don't know. Like, tell me, like when you were going into botany, were you like, I'm going to be able to make cool gin?
I had all of that in mind, to be honest. The reason why I chose phytochemistry and ethnobotany is because you can use that in any of the alcohol making industries, to be honest.
I know you were saying one of your courses, you had to go to a tequila manufacturer.
Oh, gosh,
It was agave spirit.
Yeah, agave. So that's one of the things. So luckily what happened is I managed to attend a lot of local and international conferences with my studies, and the local conferences in South Africa, we've had this tequila industry. It's closed down now, unfortunately, but it was located in Graafrenet.
Graafrenet.
Yeah, lovely little town there in South Africa.
Old town.
It sounds
with
lovely.
little window shutters
and. I met my love
exactly
in the factory walls.
So yeah, we were basically showed how to make tequila from scratch, from having the plant being harvested and basically
Agave
extracting
spirits.
what we need. It's
gonna be-
all organic chemistry as well, which I've basically used this in my phytochemistry studies, and we had a great tequila tasting, and I'll leave it at that.
Agave spirit tasting.
Yeah, you can't make tequila outside of the tequila region of Mexico. So, South African agave is just called agave spirits, to my knowledge. I don't know if there's a Afrikaans word for it, but it's not tequila.
There's an Afrikaans word, but we'll keep it.
Or maybe they call it tequila because they don't give a shit about international treaties. And just,
Well,
yeah. How does it feel that my business partner Zach is a high school dropout and he knows more than you off of Wikipedia?
You know what? I don't think it's that he knows more than me off of
Well-
Wikipedia, but he's really, it's a matter of trial and error. So I know
He
that,
has a lot of error.
but you know what? I that's one of the reasons why I hang out with guys like that.
Oh,
like
you
that
hang out with a lot
because,
of guys?
Well, with people with enthusiasm and optimism and motivation, basically. Because, I mean, the fact that he's basically teaching himself. Using Wikipedia as a guideline, but he's basically teaching himself through trial and error. So I've got great respect for people like that. That's why I hang out with people like that. That's why I hang out with you guys, because
So this is a business podcast. We always forget that.
Yeah.
Well, Tyler specifically, but
no, I thought it was comedy.
so you're somebody who's gone. If you were funny, God, we would make so much money. So you've went to school pretty much as long as I've been alive.
yeah, basically,
So
you could say that.
so as someone
We're not counting the last 5 years that you've been breathing as alive.
barely hanging on by a thread, right? So, but just bear with me here. Like, so for someone who's gone through the entirety of as much education as you can possibly get, like you have a PhD, you have masters, you have bachelors, like
You got a specialized PhD.
you've experienced pretty much all the education that the world has to offer. You've written and published articles before. You've pretty much gone through the entirety of education. Do you think you recommend that for, I will say anybody, but specifically thinking about entrepreneurs and people that maybe want to get into business? Do you think that there was value towards going through that amount of school?
One thing that's really cool about education is that once you have it, no one can take it away from you.
It's true.
Until you move
So-
to Canada and we don't recognize your degrees anymore.
I was gonna say.
Luckily, I was one of the lucky few that I didn't have to repeat anything. Basically everything that I had and sent in was accredited and was
For South Africa 20
yeah.
years ago is not the same as South Africa today. Like,
True.
Yeah.
you know, like, well, there's doctors from Pakistan that come here and we're just like, sorry, we don't know if this is a real degree or not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's good. Keep going.
Okay.
But yeah, so continue.
Yeah, so basically, what I would recommend is, the thing is, I didn't do all my studies back to back. So I finished my school career, and I decided. Originally, I wanted to become a vet because I'm a dog. I'm a pet lover, dog, cat. I'm a pet person basically. I love animals, so my initial plan was to study to become a vet, and I had to do like a general BSc at first, which included zoology, and we did all of these dissections, and it basically just totally put me off from becoming a vet, to be honest.
Yeah, I can imagine
That's
the
interesting.
grizzly part of medicine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So with that happening, I decided to change from zoology and botany to chemistry and botany.
And how old were you when you did that?
I was 19.
Okay.
Yeah, and the reason why I did botany and chemistry is because I had homeopathy in mind, basically medicinal plants, using plants as a medicinal cure, as herbal remedies. Basically, that was what I wanted to focus on. And I finished my degree and I started working. I actually finished my bachelor's and started teaching, and I did teaching for 3 years. And while I was teaching for 3 years, I did my teaching degree as well, part-time. And then once I'd done that,
Can you move any farther that way?
I decided to continue with my post-grad studies, and I did my honors and I did my masters, and I basically worked at the university while I was doing that, and then I left the university again, and I taught abroad. I was teaching in Johannesburg for a while, then I went abroad. I never wanted to do a PhD. A PhD was the last thing on my mind, because I felt that you are way too overqualified to do that. And in the end, as they say in the beginning, when you start studying, you know nothing about anything, and in the end, when you finish, you know everything about nothing. Basically, that's how specialized it becomes.
Profound.
Yeah.
You know everything about everything about this corner of the universe that nobody's paying attention to.
You get so specialized that you know everything about. Like, I know everything about the botanicals in the Little Karoo, which is the area that I studied in for my PhD. But that is of no use to me here at the moment. But my techniques are obviously of worth, because I can use my techniques in the alcohol
do that again
industry.
Anywhere.
I can do it anywhere. I mean, the methods that I had to use in my studies are the methods I can use here as well. So I would recommend, follow your gut. I mean, if you want to have a gap year, have a gap year. If you want to work instead, work, but don't fall into a comfort zone. That's something that I would definitely recommend. Don't fall into a comfort zone.
Clearly.
Yeah, I mean, look at me. I moved from South Africa to Canada, so I'm totally out of my comfort zone.
But you would probably say that your PhD helped you get jobs.
Absolutely. The PhD did definitely open doors for me.
Even though they're not directly, like the gym
related.
job and stuff, they're not directly like, oh, you need a PhD to work here kind of thing, right? Like
True.
Some places have like, you need this degree to work here, but that wasn't, but it definitely probably opened. Definitely, probably.
Well,
definitely, probably did open a few doors.
It's like the highest level of recommendation of a person. Not just in qualifications, but I think it also says a lot about character too. That someone can get through that, right?
It takes a lot of discipline. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And you know what? The best feeling is when someone comes up to you and asks you, Miss or Mrs., and I say, Doctor.
Yeah.
That's the best feeling. That's worth it.
That's pretty good. Yeah, because you get to nullify what they were about to assume about you.
Exactly.
One of my high school English teachers, I won't say her name, had a PhD in psychology, and was teaching high school English. I don't know what happened, but she went by Mrs., and then I would call her Doctor all the time. And I think she didn't want me to do that because I think it reminded her that she was overqualified for her job.
Yeah, or maybe it just felt weird.
I actually really liked her too. I don't know why I did that. I was a dick in school.
You're of that age when you just wanted to poke shit to see what happened?
I'm still at that age, Tyler.
That's fair. Absolutely fair.
Anyway, I think we're going to transfer here into our segment that we call Shot Caller. This is the part of the show where you, the audience, can pick the shot that we drink. Today's shot is brought actually by our guest, which is this has never before happened in life. So she's offered to make us a traditional South African shot. I cannot verify. I couldn't find anything about this on Google, but she claims that when you walk into a bar, you can get this. You can order this and get it. So.
Okay, well, when I have time for 30 hours of flying, I'll make sure to go right over there and find out.
So do you guys want me to tell you? Okay, so you can find this on Google if you spell it correctly. So it's called a Springbucky. So a Springbok is one of the antelopes we have in South Africa, but also our rugby team are known as the Springboks. And the colors of our rugby team is green and gold. So...
And we're back. Sorry. We're... There might be a couple weird cuts in this episode. We've never used the 3 mic setup. I finally have it set up correctly.
And mic number 3 we don't use.
Mic number 3 we've never used before, so the sound has been jumping from too quiet to too loud. So if there's any weird editing, I'm sorry in advance, but
you're gonna have to compress the shit out of it.
Yeah, I'll figure it out. So you were saying you're saying about these Springbockies.
Yeah. So
I like the pouring technique there. That's great.
I've read up on it, to be honest.
So she's pouring layers of a shot, and to make sure that they don't mix together, she's like pouring onto the back of a spoon so it doesn't blend. Do you know this trick, Willows?
Yeah. So it's all has to do with surface tension.
Yeah.
But she's basically mixing creme de menthe and Baileys to make a very, very hard line of like green and gold or brown but gold, because that's the color of your rugby team, the Springboks.
Yeah, so the Springboks are our national rugby team, South African rugby team, the champions of the World Cup in the meantime so far.
Oh.
Yeah, very proud of that. I'm a big rugby fan. And a Springbucky is a typical shot that you'll get if you go to South Africa in a bar and you ask for Springbuckies. This is exactly what they'll serve you.
Nice.
So it's peppermint liqueur with in South Africa we don't use Baileys. We use either Amarula or Cape Velvet cream, which is basically the same type of alcohol than the Baileys is, the creamy liqueur. And that's basically it. So let me pass on.
Thank you, the entire country of South Africa and the Johannesburg Springboks, for sponsoring this episode.
Shorts.
And shorts, which is Afrikaans for cheers. So you know what this tastes like, Tyler?
What?
Thin mints.
Yes. Yes. Perfect. Love it. Fucking delicious.
Awesome. Yeah.
We're gonna need like 3 or 4 of those, honestly.
Yeah, well, she was gonna make another one as well, of a different kind.
Yeah, so the other version that we'll use later on is
can do it now?
we can do it now as well.
we always take
We
multiple shots
So-
if they're less than straight liquor.
Yeah,
40%.
If you're new to the show, if we take a shot on the show on shot caller that's under 40% alcohol, we have to take more than one.
Which is sometimes we just do it anyways.
Sometimes, well, most times we just do it anyways.
Should we get clean glasses or just use the same ones?
Doesn't matter to
Can I
me.
have the same effect?
No, I brought 2 for everyone.
Did you?
Yeah.
No, you didn't. Oh,
Oh.
there.
Wow. Look at you thinking ahead. I like
So
how hard you tried for this episode, Willows.
Thank you. I was trying to impress the
The guest.
the guest, the doctor.
Well, you succeeded.
So if anyone, thank you, appreciate that. Nothing you just said they could hear. You were too far away from the mic.
You succeeded.
Perfect. One of the funniest things in my life is that I own a company called Shrugging Doctor, and a lot of people that don't know my name, but like I do markets with, or my regular customers, or whatever, but they don't know my name, I get called the doctor all the fucking time.
That's awesome.
Like a lot. Like, oh, what's up, doctor? Like all the fucking time.
That's so good.
And then it's funny when I'm like hanging out with an actual doctor and people are calling me a doctor. It's almost like an insult.
Yeah.
God, that one's heavy.
Zach, my partner, was talking about getting like a doctorate in like winology, like just make something up.
Well, I mean, we've talked about getting the Reverend Doctor certificate that you can buy for like $150, and then you can legally call yourself Reverend Doctor. That's one of my absolute fucking
Well,
favorites.
you can
Because
pretty
what does that
much-
mean?
You can pretty much the only thing that's protected is MD.
Right.
You can call yourself like Anton Leva, the founder of the Church of Satan.
Yeah.
Gave himself a doctorate in Satanology.
Right.
And then called himself Dr. Anton Leva on legal documents and shit.
Which is fine.
The only thing that's protected is MD. You can call yourself doctor. No one can do anything.
Okay, don't look at the mess. I'll clean it up. But this one is called a Gemsbok. So the Gemsbok, obviously... Sorry about that. Okay, so this one is made with Kahlua and Baileys. Same consistency, same difference, but just the different colors, obviously. So this one is now brown, and the dark brown and the light brown, which is basically the colors of the Gemsbok in South Africa. So the Gemsbok is a different antelope than the Springbok. So that's where the name comes from.
Afrikaans is such an ugly language, if I'm going to be honest.
Yeah, we've got a very hard sound, a very like back in the throat. The G is a so yeah.
And hopefully you'll hear it on this podcast, but she's using her Canadian accent right now.
I am.
Like when she has a few more drinks, it gets bad. Like we call it Zeph, right?
Yeah, so my first language is actually Afrikaans. I always use that as an excuse when I am in lost of words.
Yeah, we were watching hockey and she kept calling the hockey puck a hockey pug, like the dog.
The pug.
Yeah.
Or the sculpture. There was a sculpture called Tree Bears, and there were 4 bears on it. And she's like, "Why is it 3 bears? If there's." It's like, no, it's tree bears.
To be fair, my grandmother does the same thing. Low German. She just says 3 is tree.
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 I put up, for you, those of you not watching the video version on youtube.com/vowillows, I said tree and put up 4 fingers. That was the joke. Thank you for coming. Anyway, we're going to take this Hemsbach.
Yeah.
Cheers. Thank you, Hemsbox, for sponsoring this episode.
So, my favorite part about having a doctor on a podcast is the fact that anything we say in this podcast is now that much more believable and or true.
So that's the only reason I wanted her on the show.
Because the shit we're about to say, I'm just kidding.
Was that well? Because I actually did this in real life on Facebook. Somebody was arguing against vaccines.
Yeah.
And they were quoting, so it was like a quote. They're like, vaccines are immoral. They're not helping anyone. They're actually killing people, whatever. Quote, doctor, whatever. And I'm like, what the fuck? So I Google it. And it's like, yeah, doctor, whatever, has an associate sociology degree from the University of Tempe or whatever. Like, I'm like, this hasn't, like, even, like, and then I told you this yesterday, Tyler. And you're like, even if you have a doctor of medicine degree, if you're not a specialist in virology, your opinion's barely fucking valid. Never mind, like, some doctor in sociology has an opinion on vaccines. It's like literally your opinion is irrelevant. But you put doctor in the quote, and people are like, oh, they're a doctor, they must be smart.
So if I want an expert opinion on, let's say, I guess, I'm not sure if this is 100% to fall under your purview, but let's say the algal bloom that's killing Lake Winnipeg. Like, and I want to say something about it, and I bring you in as an expert, a PhD from a very specific part of South Africa, and I'm like, she's going to weigh in. She has a PhD in botany, like, in the specific area, and go. Like, and just fucking validate what I'm going to say to you with TV cameras rolling and shit.
Yeah. People are like, well, of course this woman knows what she's talking about. She has a PhD in this area.
And she could be talking out of her ass with, like, maybe not out of her ass, but, like, having half-truths, maybe tying back to what you do know that is, like, actual sound science, but then you throw in a couple of things of bullshit, and maybe you wouldn't be able to tell the difference. You wouldn't be able to necessarily sift out all the bullshit.
Absolutely, yeah.
And, I mean, that's the worst part, is, like, a lot of these statements are half-true.
No, absolutely. The problem with having a specialized field, for instance, but like mine being phytochemistry and ethnobotany, it limits you as well, because obviously
your audience is other educated people.
Yeah, that's the thing. So mingling with the academic crowd, like you mentioned earlier, it could be both comforting and intimidating, because you obviously need to know what you're talking about, because everyone's an expert. But also, if you're speaking about something that's not really in your speciality, you just know, like, the basic stuff, like a general botany degree, or even in South Africa we have an honors as well, which is basically like a 4-year degree here. You learn the basics of everything, and then you only start specializing. That would be like you were saying. I mean, you don't really know exactly what's going on, but you've got a little bit of a feel for the field. So
True. Where I was going with that is, like, I don't know how much you pay attention to these things. I mean, I pay attention to it like I'm watching a car crash in real time, but just in general, how people feel about science is now a political issue. Like, do you believe in science is something people say now, which I don't know about you, but I'm gonna ask a leading question. Is that not the most insane thing that a person could say? Do you believe in science?
Yeah.
It's like, science doesn't require your fucking belief.
Well, science is a bitch sometimes.
Yeah.
Well, the nice thing about science is that the proof is in the pudding. You basically observe everything, you see everything. It's seeing is believing in that case. So that's why I enjoy it.
But have you seen the data?
Have you sifted through it yourself? Ricky Gervais said something along the lines of, if you just got rid of the Bible and every religious story, humanity would never come back to that conclusion. Like they
Right.
would never write that book again. But if you got rid of every science textbook, we would all write the same textbooks exactly the same way
Yes.
because it's
That's a great way to put it. Yeah.
it's observable fact in the universe. Like science doesn't give a fuck. But it's like it's the people that are like the flat earthers that say gravity doesn't exist. You just go down.
Right. Yeah.
How am I supposed to argue with that?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's just there's no good faith in those arguments, which is really fun to deal with. I think there's a lot of people take a lot of issue with maybe the institutions around science. Like, I don't know what your
They're all shills.
yeah. Well, I mean,
All these botanists are just looking for a paycheck.
it's more so like we've talked about like the FDA, for example. Like FDA was in the spotlight, which it never usually is. Passing safety regulation or the how safe drugs are that are coming to market.
Yeah.
And the one thing about the FDA that most people don't realize, and I don't know if you even know this, is when the FDA rules on safety or rejection for a drug, they don't actually get to look at the clinical trial data. Do you know that?
No, I didn't know that. That's interesting.
No,
Why?
they
What's
they
the
do.
purpose?
They are not allowed to see the data. They do not see the data. What they
So
get
they
to
just go
see,
and trust.
they get to see the company's conclusions about their data that they paid for.
Wow.
That sounds illegal.
Does that sound like a
That
good way
sounds
to
fishy.
exactly? And you don't have any context other than that.
Is that how Health
Wow.
Canada works too? Or is
That's
that-
how they all work.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And the
yeah.
companies doing the clinical trials are not actually the pharmaceutical companies. They're subcontractors
Yeah.
who are financially incentivized to run clinical trials that look good.
So what you're
my
saying,
And they don't
is,
even they don't even have to include all the data. They can just like kick something that they don't like.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is everyone who got the vaccine is going to die within 3 years.
I'm saying the statement of like, do you believe in science, bro? What they really mean is, do you believe in the fucking institutions that say they're science
Which-
but are really just political
which you-
the
institutions, right?
database. Yeah.
Which, you know what's funny? Is that these mostly right-wing, mostly uneducated, mostly conservative people are saying, don't trust the capitalist system that we've created. To, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
To,
no,
like,
they're like they're pro everything that the FDA is doing, like a pay-as-you-go. Like they're like that's what those parties kind of represent. That's what they're all in favor of, but hate the outcomes. And then instead of blaming the system, they blame science, which is incredible mental gymnastics.
Wow.
Which it's fucking
Well,
beautiful. Welcome to America, baby.
It's funny, like, because I've seen it here too. Like people that were like, we need to trust the government and trust the doctors. Now that they're getting rid of mass and vaccines, now they're like, don't trust the government, don't trust the doctors. Like,
yeah.
it's so interesting.
Well, to
that
be
you
fair,
can
the left does this as well, except they're doing the same thing with the same information, but they're using it to like validate themselves, even though they equally don't understand it. It goes
That's
both
interesting.
ways.
like I always say, everyone's an idiot except us, and you, I'm not too sure about.
You do say that a lot, yeah.
I do.
Yeah. One thing I do know as well is I'm on the sideline part time. I'm also doing some educational consultations for one of the pharmaceuticals companies located in Toronto.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
talk about immigrants taking our jobs.
Yeah.
She has 14 fucking jobs. Like,
Not that many, about 7, but still.
Yeah, they would hustle you. It's okay.
But this is a pharmaceutical company that specializes in herbal remedies, which basically is in my field, and they need to now. I've noticed that all their products need to have an NPN, a product number, a national product number, as they say,
yeah.
which basically is provided by Canada Health,
Health Canada.
basically that.
so you can't just sell quack potions that don't.
Exactly, yeah. So
I,
same in the lines that you were talking about,
Yeah.
you know, where
I-
they screen it, they check the dosage and all that, and then and they check what the recommendations are and all that, and then if they approve, then they give you a product number.
And
for
and
it.
to be clear, they're checking on safety of
Yeah.
the drug. They're not checking, or of the supplement or whatever it is.
whatever.
They're not checking on its
Effectiveness.
effectiveness or efficacy in any manner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're just checking
Well-
to make sure it's not poison.
So I lived with a guy for like 3 months, who was he used to turn off our Wi-Fi router at night because he thought it would give him cancer. If you slept within 50 meters of a Wi-Fi router,
I love this guy.
You would get brain cancer and die immediately. So anyway, but he would make a living making colloidal gold. I don't know if you're familiar with this.
And silver, yeah.
Yeah, colloidal heavy minerals, and he would sell them to health food stores illegally. Like, he wasn't a registered business or anything. He was making them on the fucking counter. Like, he did not have a license for this. But what he would put on the label is not fit for human consumption.
Right.
And then when he would market it to them, he's like, yeah, well, just wink. Not meant for human consumption. Wink. Because as long as you say that on the label, then it's fine. But these people that were buying it and drinking it.
Yeah.
And that was the whole thing.
Yeah. And
I've looked into it, like, it's pseudoscience. Colloidal gold and silver. I don't know. It's not actually. There's no actual science behind it.
Do you know anything about that?
I know about a product called colloidal silica, so I'm not sure if it's basically the same concept.
Colloidal is just a chemical process.
Yeah.
Silica's the bonus package you get in the beef jerky.
The snack, yeah.
Yeah, the extra snack package.
No,
I think I'm allergic to beef jerky, by the way. Because every time I eat a pack, I end up in the hospital.
Oh, yeah, it's the silica.
But
for
it's
sure.
not.
What?
It's not. Yeah. Okay. Cool. But it's not the biltong. It's the beef jerky. So that's different.
Biltong's fine.
Yeah.
No,
biltong is good enough. Biltong is good. It's safe.
I've used I've had colloidal silver used for like ear infections and different stuff like that growing up as a kid, and from what my understanding, it's an effective like antifungal.
I've heard it's pseudoscience, but I could be proved wrong. I do know they do use silver and gold on burn victims, on people that have like 3rd-degree burns all over their body. But I don't know. I'm not what am I, a scientist, a doctor? What?
Anyways, I don't want to discuss the pros and cons of colloidal silver because that's a whole audience that I'm not trying to monetize over here.
That's fair. No, anyway, my point being, he was able to skirt Health Canada rules by just being like, oh, no.
Not fit, yeah.
It's for dogs' paws. And then people were eating it.
Yeah.
Which I guess is like fucking ivermectin and shit, right?
Yeah. So another fun one, if you ever see like any supplement or like essential oils or different products of that nature, like manufactured in Utah, not necessarily always, but probably a good thing to stay away from.
Which is why all the MLM companies are in Utah, by the way.
Yeah, companies gravitate to Utah because what you're talking about, the Canada
National product number.
Yeah, the national product number. They don't have even the basic level of like, is this poison or not? They don't even bother with that, and those products can be exported anywhere in the U.S. and into Canada. So, for example, one of these companies, I think it was Young Living, I think was the company. So, have you ever heard of Young Living? They do essential oils.
Yeah, it sounds familiar.
So they're a very popular one, but so they came out with this brilliant product, and I'd love to see a reaction on this. It was apparently to help your infant sleep at night.
Oh my gosh!
And here's the name of it. Catch this. It was Nightshade.
Oh my word! I know Nightshade.
Why do you know Nightshade, Margaret? What is Nightshade? Can you tell the audience?
Nightshade is actually, it's a berry. We have it in South Africa as well.
Should you give it to babies?
No.
Why?
It sounds like it's good for sleepy time.
Let's be honest. So, Nightshade specifically, if you consume the berries of Nightshade while they're still green, while they're still unripe, it can be fatal. It's poisonous.
Yeah.
But as soon as they are ripe, it's safe for consumption. So you have to be very careful, because you don't know whether the extracts were made on unripe or ripe berries, for instance, because in South Africa,
this company's famously not careful about literally anything.
Yeah, so
so it'll kill the baby?
Yes.
And you're saying don't give it to the baby?
I would say stay away from it in general.
That doesn't make any sense.
What about copious volumes in your baby's mouth?
No.
Well, that's basically what happened.
Not.
And fuck them kids.
Seriously, that's one of my plants I actually studied in South Africa. I mean, nightshades. We have an area.
Should I make wine from the berries?
If it's ripe berries and they black berries, they're actually really tasty. We make jam from it. We make
would
like
be
a
awesome.
jelly that you can eat on your bread.
Make a nightshade wine.
I have
I'll look into
nightshade
it.
jam all the time when I'm in South Africa. We have an area in South Africa called Clarence. It's a beautiful little artistic little town.
A what town?
Artistic town.
Oh.
Like art. Like it's big into
Oh.
art
It
and
just
things.
sounded like you said autistic.
Not autistic, artistic.
Thanks.
And nightshade jam is really, really tasty, but you have to be so careful because the chemistry of plants are different at different stages.
Yeah.
We've also done some investigations about even the different plant organs. For instance, if you use aerial parts or underground parts, the chemistry can be different, and it can also be different in different times of the stage of the plant. So unripe berries, for instance, can be poisonous, where ripe berries can be absolutely harmless.
Yeah. Yeah.
So nightshade is a bit of a gamble.
Yeah. And they handled it badly. There was a number of babies that got very, very, very sick, and they got I think they got a cease and desist for that one.
I don't
Yeah.
see
But
anything
that was-
wrong
yeah.
with thinning out the herd.
I mean,
Survival of the fittest.
if you're gonna thin out the herd, just be honest about it.
Yeah,
Don't
if you're-
don't sell it as a health product.
That's fair. Yeah. No. Yeah. For the record, this podcast doesn't have a problem with killing babies. We have a problem with lying on your labels. That's despicable.
That's where we draw the
That's
line.
where we're drawing the line right now.
Yeah, you can't be fake about it.
Own
that shit.
I want to kind of circle back to business.
No.
Okay.
create new stuff,
Continue. What are you gonna say?
think out of the box.
I don't want to now.
But it
Create
wasn't even
new
that good.
things.
I didn't actually have an idea. I usually catch it on the way.
Oh,
You know what I
okay.
mean?
Yeah. Throw that shit and catch it on the way down.
That's a Michael Scott.
Okay, so I did actually have something I wanted to talk about today because I thought it would be funny. And also having a guest that is a doctor of a completely relevant field, I want to talk about hedge funds.
That's a business topic.
Yeah, judging by your face, I could tell you're really excited about this topic that you know a lot about being a doctor.
You can always learn.
She asked me how to open a bank account the other day, so
No, I did not. I always say the sky's the limit. There's always room for improvement. You can always learn every day.
Okay, well you're gonna learn today.
here's what I say.
Great.
If you want to get to the moon, I shoot myself, and then I'm in the stars.
Then you see stars for a bit.
I just think you die.
I wish.
Okay, so you lived in the Middle East. So what do you know about the Saudi royal family, like MBS?
Not that much, because I know that they're I can't even remember the terms, to be honest. Is it called the Shafar or something? I can't even remember.
Sheikh?
The Sheikh.
Yeah.
He actually, when I left Qatar, his son just took over. So that interchange took place as I finished my time in Qatar, my 2-year contract basically, and then I decided to go back home because I got homesick for some reason. I don't know why, but
It's a nice place to be.
yeah. But while I was living in Qatar for those 2 years, I mean, it was a very pleasant experience. The Sheikh was very giving. You know, I mean, we had a lot of festivities and. The fact that when the Sheikh would go to Britain, for instance, there would always be a mosque for him to go and do his rituals, his basically his religious duties and things like that, and for that he provided churches and things like that for all religions in the Middle East. So he was a very, I would say he was a very
Didn't you say someone you worked with got murdered because they let him?
That happened literally as I left the Middle East. So yeah, one of my
I'm just
colleagues.
thinking, as she's like, I had a good time in the Middle East.
Yeah.
Personally, I had a great time. I mean,
Meanwhile-
it's the most luxurious life ever. If you really want to make a lot of money, the Middle East is tax free. You don't pay a cent tax. The money that they tell you that they offer you on the contract is the money you get paid into your bank account.
Wow, what a shock that must have been coming
I
here.
made
Yeah.
the most
Actually,
amount of money.
before you continue with this story, it's tax time right now.
Oh.
She actually sent me a message because she's like, I kind of calculated it and I'm getting like 50% of my wages deducted.
Yeah, that
Like
was
she
a
thought there
shocker.
was a mistake. And I'm like, yeah, no, that's just the tax bracket you're in. She's like, because this is your first
Full-time.
year with a full-time job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, yeah, the top.
Yeah, I've got like 74 forms, and I've got like half of my salary deducted every month.
Yeah, and that's the problem. Is as long as you're earning on a T4, you're gonna have that problem. But I mean, this is maybe get a good accountant, get a financial advisor, and you can start. I mean, the more money you make and the further you get in your career, the more tax efficient you can get. Is quote unquote evade more taxes.
Yeah, honestly, any of the you do a lot of tutoring and stuff.
Yeah.
You could honestly probably incorporate as a tutor company, and then
Well, just consulting services and
pay capital gains instead of
right, and that purview could cover a lot of your contract work if you just
Yeah.
asked to sign different types of contracts and get
like when you work for Sylvan or whatever, be like, hey, instead of hiring me, contract me, pay me, don't deduct anything.
well, maybe
I'll do my taxes.
maybe
Myself,
that
yeah.
organization wouldn't do it, but like on
Right? Who knows?
yeah, possibly yeah. There's obviously ways to get around it, but
That's
hey,
true.
welcome to Canada.
Thanks.
Paying your dues, and we're already helping you not pay your dues.
Corporate tax rate's like half of what personal tax rate is. Earning money with a job is literally the worst, highest tax. Like, it's completely backwards, right?
Yeah,
Like, I don't care if you're a capitalist or a communist or whatever. Wherever you land, like, why is it the least you earn and the smaller you are, the more taxes you pay? That doesn't make any
sense.
on just a
it's because they don't have any power.
well, exactly. I know the real.
We know
answer.
why. It's because they don't have any power.
It's like every time I hypothetically ask him, like, well, why doesn't Biden just forgive all the student loans? It's like, well, I know the answer, but like, anyway,
Because that would help people. Obviously,
Yeah.
that's a bad thing.
Yeah. Anyway,
You can't-
but
you
you were
can't just
saying
help people.
your friend, or
Yeah.
not your friend, but like your coworker.
An acquaintance of mine. Yeah. So basically, the school where I was working at was an international school that basically had an elementary school and a high school. We had different campuses, and the specific campus where I was at was called the Lagoon campus. So we had an elementary school and a high school right next to one another. And this one,
And you were going to the high school.
I was teaching at the high school. I was
because
teaching biology.
You were 15.
No, I was teaching 15-year-olds. No, I was teaching the high school from grade 7 to grade 12,
I always
grade 13 basically.
I just always like to cruelly remind her that she's 16 years older than me.
On paper.
What do you mean on paper? What the fuck does that mean?
That means
Paper's not real,
that,
Willows.
Physically, I am 16 years younger than you.
Gross. You're 10? Physically?
Okay, all right. Okay, that came out wrong. Physically, I'm the same age as you.
Physically, you're 18 and a half.
Yeah.
You're 18 in one day.
There we go. There we go. Yeah, that sounds better. But in any case, back to the story. So I just finished my contract in Qatar, and I was home for the summer vacation, which in South Africa is the winter vacation, basically. Because Southern Hemisphere, we have our seasons backwards.
She's always like, oh, this is a nice, like, margarita. It'd be great for Christmas.
Yeah, next to the pool.
Right.
Because that's what we do on Christmas Day. We swim.
Right.
And we have pool parties, and we braai. So... But so I was getting these messages on Facebook of one of my colleagues saying that, have you seen this? Have you seen my friend? If you've seen her, please let me know. So she just gone missing. And in the end, what happened is that in Qatar, where I was specifically living in Doha, it's the desert. It's like minimum 40 degrees in the day. It can go up to 60 degrees Celsius. I mean, I remember I was driving my car in the month of May, and it was like 56 degrees Celsius
Isn't
outside.
it weird that it's literally 100 degrees colder here on some days than it is there?
It's
Isn't that
absolutely
wild?
That is
mind-blowing.
wild, yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
And people are like, weather is from God.
that's
Fuck out of here.
that's the amount. Like 100 degrees is how
Oh my
much
God.
water needs to boil, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the difference. Like, we've had minus 50 ambient temperature days in Winnipeg, which, to be fair, is among the coldest in the
It's
world.
highly unusual, though.
But I've experienced
It's
it.
happened, yeah.
And there's days where it's plus 50 Celsius in Qatar.
Yeah.
On the same day.
I remember
Probably
that.
on the same day. Yeah,
Yeah.
wild, honestly.
Yeah, May. I remember, like in May, I was saying
Wait, are they in the northern hemisphere or
they're,
the southern?
they're in the northern hemisphere, but just above.
over, right?
Yeah, just above.
Because like Egypt's cut in half, right? I think
yeah, it's north of Africa basically. It's
sub-Saharan.
close to Dubai, so That might make it easier.
Anyway, you were
Very.
saying.
But in any case, so what happens is, because it's so hot during the day, people start going out only like at 10 p.m. at the earliest, 10, 11. And you usually party around 1, 2, 3 in the morning and then go back home. I would see families having picnics at 2 o'clock in the morning in the park.
Yeah.
Because that would be then a proper temperature to be outside. People would sleep until 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
That's fair.
Then
Yeah.
wake up, have their breakfast and all that, and then basically do their work, in the early evenings, and then in the early mornings they'll go outside. So what happened is this group of friends went out to a club, had a party, met some guys there, and then they decided to get share a cab back home. And these were like local guys that were like entertaining these ladies, my colleagues basically.
Mm-hmm.
And what happened is
and it
that
kind of matters. This is going to sound bad, but it does matter. It is relevant for the story. They were Muslim men, and
that's what I meant by locals.
And this was a non-Muslim woman.
It was a British
Right.
woman. She was from Britain, so an English
But
woman.
that is relevant for the story.
Yeah, so she was British. They both are British. The men were local men, Arabic men. So what happened is that her friend just never came home. She gone missing. So they started searching for her, and I think a few days later, they found her. And the way they found her is that a sport that they have in the Middle East is hawks and eagles. I think it's hawk flights. I'm not sure what they call it exactly.
Falconry.
There we go, falconry. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
So
Fun
this
sport.
one guy he basically worked with falcons
Word
and all
of the
that.
day.
And he let his falcons out, and this one falcon basically was, I don't know, but he
Found the body.
found the remains of this person. So
Who you worked with, like this.
so what happened is this woman was murdered, and then they took her body. They dug a hole in the desert, in the middle of the desert. They dug a hole. They threw her body in the hole and they burned it. So obviously she still had remains, her feet, her skull, and all that, because it wasn't a very deep hole basically.
Which is ideal for getting rid of a body.
Which is ideal for getting rid of a body, and this falcon found the remains.
Yeah.
And they did obviously DNA testing and dental matches and things like that, and identified her as being it was her. So in the end, what happened is that she basically got raped, got murdered. The body was disposed of, and when they actually found these men and basically took them to court said, well, you know what? She seduced them. She was seductive. She seduced them. So she was looking for it. So they came all free.
Because
Hands free.
he said, you told me he said on the stand, like, well, she led me on.
Yeah.
So
but the guys were saying, she led me on. She flirted with me.
So I had to rape her because she was flirting with me,
Yeah.
and then I had to kill her because she didn't want to be raped, and he got scot free.
There's a hierarchy in the Middle East, unfortunately, where it depends on who you are. So obviously the locals have the highest, and then
Local men, white men, dogs,
women.
Local women.
local women, and then way down to the bottom, foreign women.
British people. Which, I mean,
And then-
to be fair, they
And
earned
then-
that
yeah,
spot.
oh no, and then
Yeah.
British people is in like shadow realm, like below F tier.
They earned
Yeah.
that spot. But I mean, it's awful that, like, did the fact that they could be honest on
Yeah,
the
and nothing
stand,
would
and they're like,
happen.
yeah,
Yeah,
they
still-
knew
yeah.
they knew they were
On stand
untouchable.
said, this
That's
is what happened.
insane.
I remember.
Which, for the record, I don't want to get anything out of context. I don't think that's a problem with the Islam religion. I think that's a problem with the way the government of most of these Middle Eastern countries is run.
Yeah.
No, it's not an Islamic
It's not
thing.
an Islamic
It's
thing.
it's absolutely the government, because
The Muslims I know that are here are the most peace-loving fucking people.
Yeah. Yeah,
Like-
no, I've got no I've got no worries with any of the religions or anything. I mean, it's a free country. It's a free world.
Me and Tyler like Joe Rogan, so people already think we're white supremacists. So I just want to be clear.
But just another
And
short story.
we have someone who lived through apartheid here as well. So
True.
this
I
is-
mean, up until
on
I
the
was
wrong
14.
side of
like,
apartheid.
Tyler has a Nazi. Tyler has a Nazi youth haircut. This woman supported apartheid.
I didn't support it. I was a kid during those days.
And I say ridiculous, random racist things just to be funny. So this is like not a good group of people to be like, yeah, so these Muslims over there.
No, that's fair point. Thanks for.
Yeah.
So just for
Yeah.
clarification, anyway, continue.
Yeah. So a short story just to confirm of everything you were saying. A friend of mine, a South African friend of mine that was living in Qatar as well, she came in, she caused an accident, a motor accident, with another driver. It was her fault. She admitted it. The other driver was an Indian male. So what happens in Qatar, if you do come in an accident, you have to go to the police station, both parties, and state your case.
Yeah.
And then they would decide what's happening.
Yeah.
So she and this Indian man went to court, went to the police station. She said to the police, it was my fault. I didn't look. I caused the accident. The policeman gave the Indian guy a penalty. He had to pay like 120 reals, and she came off scot-free because of the hierarchy.
Interesting.
Because she was European and he was Indian, she had a high hierarchy.
Also, we were
as
wrong.
well.
The Indians are in the shadow realm.
Actually, yeah. So what
Well-
happened is when they went outside the police station, she gave him back his 120 reals because she said to him, "It's unfair. You were right. I was wrong. I was supposed to pay
Isn't
that
that
penalty."
interesting? Like, it's like the Family Guy bit where they have the white tones is okay
Yeah.
and the black tones is
riot to protest.
Yeah, but it's like, it's just so wild to see. Like, it's 2022, and these are like not. It's gonna sound bad, but these aren't poor countries. Like Qatar, Saudi Arabia, UAE are fucking loaded,
Yeah.
and this is like
So they're not developing nations.
not
is your
to
point.
like I don't want to be like offensive to anyone, but like you hear a story like that from a developing nation, and you're like, yeah, okay, like like they're a developing nation, they don't have their law and order set up, like, whatever, but it's like, it's not like they're fucking poor. Like,
Well, they are, but to be fair, they are a developing nation just with a lot of money
which is interesting.
and a lot of clout.
Yeah, there's the guy that like masterminded Dubai. I saw like a little interview with him, and like everyone was like, this is a desert, bro.
Yeah,
And he was like, no. And literally within like 15 years,
it all happened.
there's a picture of tents where there's now the largest buildings in the world.
Yeah.
Fucking insane.
Yeah, I mean, Qatar's main income a few years ago were fisheries.
Well,
it was
now
fisheries.
now it's oil.
And that was like 20 years ago, I think. They started with the oil like recently.
Yeah, within my lifetime.
Yeah,
like-
within like the late 90s.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, like I said, it's tax-free. The most luxurious lifestyle I've had was my 2 years in Qatar. I mean, I would go for massages on a weekly basis. And it was not even expensive. I would go to the most expensive hotels to like have like brunches and buffets and things on a weekly basis. It was absolutely amazing. I've never saved so much money than I did in those 2 years.
Yeah, and you were saving money
That-
the whole time.
that's
I was
actually-
saving money the whole time.
I-
I was living for free. I was driving for free. Everything.
Oh yeah, because they paid all your living.
They
yeah.
paid my living.
Wow.
I had a fully furnished, huge apartment,
With like a
2-bedroom
butler,
apartment.
right?
Yeah, I had people cleaning my apartment for me. It was absolutely amazing. That was the best lifestyle I've ever lived.
Sounds incredible. Well, I mean,
Well,
you also have
go for it.
incredible wealth disparity there as well, right?
I saw something on my TikTok algorithm that's like, do you have any? Someone was asking him, do you have any advice for like a, fresh college graduate? He's like, if you're single, if you don't really know what you want to study or whatever, do 4 years in Dubai. It'll literally set you up for life.
True.
Like, just go work, whatever. Like,
I agree. And
I-
the education
I should
sector
go-
there wasn't bad.
Honestly, I should go and tile there.
yeah,
That honestly, if I
Yeah.
going there and doing what I do,
they're building a
Would-
building that's bigger than the Burj Khalifa right now.
yeah, like
And how much fucking tile work you need done?
no, literally, like if I could get contracts there, I'd be clearing
Yeah.
7 figures within
Easy.
probably 3 weeks of landing.
Do they? How easy was it to?
Oh, it was
Get
the
a job
easiest
there.
thing ever. It was
Yeah?
so easy. So
Did your university help you out, or did you?
No, actually not. It was like word of mouth, to be honest. So I'm a teacher as well. I love the education the sector basically. Okay, cool.
One more
We're
shot.
We're gonna take one more shot, or maybe two more. Who
Two
knows?
more. Who knows?
Cheers.
Yeah. Shorts.
How easy was it? Sorry, another.
How easy is it to get?
We've
into
had
Qatar?
so many fucking technical difficulties. I'll just say this before you finish. Usually, if you ever hear a hard cut, or I'm pretty good at the audio cuts, but if you're ever watching the video, obviously it's impossible to do a good cut with the video. If you ever see like a hard cut, It's usually because me and Tyler had a segment that was too offensive because we had a few drinks and we said, I'm like, I'm just going to cut that out. It's not worth, like, it's, sometimes I'll say offensive things and I keep it because I'm like, that's worth the bit. Like, it's kind of funny.
Yeah.
Sometimes we're just like, I'm like, this isn't funny and it's irrelevant and it's offensive. Like,
because we're just mad.
Because we're just, whatever. So I just cut it out. Because if you're a new listener to this podcast, the entire reason me and Tyler started it was because these conversations between the two of us was what we were doing at the bar once a week. We like made it, we were like, let's go to a new bar every week and just fucking work out our business problems. So that's what the podcast is. But there's a lot of stuff you say at the bar with your friends that you don't want to like broadcast to the world.
Yeah.
So if there's ever been like hard cuts, that's usually what happened. This fucking episode, I've now had to cut probably 10 times because of technical difficulties because I don't know how these fucking mics work. So that's all I wanted to say. I'm angry. Anyway, you were saying immigration wise.
Yeah, so basically for me to get into Qatar was the easiest thing ever. I mean, I was teaching at the time, so I'm a teacher as well.
Sorry, this was pre-PhD.
This was pre-PhD. This was with an MSc, a master's degree.
Because now probably, like when you send in a immigration application and you put your name as doctor, they're probably like, oh, okay.
It helps.
Probably helps.
Yeah, I managed to get into Canada without my PhD because when I applied to get into Canada, I was still busy with my PhD at the time.
Okay, so you had...
So I got permanent residence.
You have to apply way before, right?
I started applying for permanent residence in 2015 and I got it in 2018. Okay, so by the way, so I was teaching at that time. I'm doing my teacher voice far away. I was teaching at that time, and one of my colleagues, her son was working in Qatar. He was teaching in Qatar. And she said to me, oh, you know what, by the way, if were you ever interested in teaching abroad? And I was like, well, if the opportunity presents itself, yes. So that's how it happened. So her son contacted me. He said to me, listen, we are needing a science teacher, basically a biology teacher that I'm qualified for in Qatar. Are you willing to send your CV in? So I was like, absolutely. I sent in my CV without thinking I'm going to get it. Literally... a week after they phoned me, I had an interview over the phone. They offered me the job. They gave me all the perks. And by the end of that month, I was in Qatar. It was less than a month. It was 3 weeks.
Have you spoken English your entire life?
I started speaking English. My best friend, our neighbors were English. And they had a daughter that's a little bit younger than me, a few months younger than me. She was English, obviously, as well. And I started speaking English from the age of 3.
Okay, so... That's all I wanted to know.
Yeah.
I was just curious because you were teaching in a school for international students in Qatar, and you were teaching in the English language.
English language, yes.
But when you were teaching in South Africa, you were teaching in Afrikaans?
No, I was teaching in English as well. All the schools where I've taught at were English.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty common.
Yeah. So I started teaching when I was 22, and that was in English.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah. So
because South Africa has 11
official languages.
Official languages.
Yeah. Official.
Official.
And
then
a
bunch of unofficial languages as well.
Can you name them all? Quick.
I
Fire
can
around.
Name them all. I can try and name them all.
Go.
Obviously, Afrikaans, English, Xhosa, Zulu, Pedi, Setswana, Xhosa. I don't know if I've mentioned Xhosa before. Gosh, what's the others?
That's only 7.
That's like 7. I'm short for.
That's so many.
Yeah, Venda. One of my friends are Venda. Sorry, Katu. Venda. Oh my gosh, what are the others?
And these are
official.
These aren't languages that are like spoken there. These are official languages.
Official South African languages.
Canada has French and English. Like they literally have 11 official languages.
Yeah, so I'm sure 3, and I'm gonna kick myself afterwards because I'm sure I'm gonna remember them right after this.
So does that mean whenever they sing the national anthem, they do it 11
times? They have to
times?
do it in 11 languages.
We do 3 languages when we sing the anthem.
Afrikaans, English, Zulu.
We do Zulu, Nkosi Sikelele, if I remember. I think it's Zulu, Nkosi Sikelele. Then English and Afrikaans.
Okay.
No, Afrikaans.
I just
English.
called that.
Yeah, we do those 3. Yeah, so we have our anthem in 3 languages. So it was the easiest thing to get into Qatar.
So what you're saying is that they have more progressive and like modern
immigration
policies than we do.
I didn't immigrate.
I mean, we're trying to keep people out.
Yeah, that's
they want
fair.
people in.
She just got.
I didn't immigrate.
as far as I know,
But
it's
even coming into work,
No,
you
but-
can't do that.
I got a work visa, so
As
I
far
got
as-
a work visa for a year.
You
and-
tell me if I'm wrong, but as far as I know, it's hard to get a work visa here.
Yeah.
You can't just.
Well,
be-
it's really hard in the U.S. It's not as hard
okay.
here.
Well, okay. So I know as an employer,
Yeah.
if I want to, because I have a friend that lives in America, lives in Wyoming. Shout out David. And he was like, bro, my girlfriend broke up with me. His fucking dog got shot. It was a whole thing. It like ran into someone else's yard in fucking America.
Right.
Anyway,
Get shot.
but he was like, bro, I need a fucking change of scenery. Hire me, like kind of as a joke. And I was like, actually, and I looked into it, and the only way you can hire a foreign worker is if you have to go down to Immigration Canada and give them a fucking presentation on why someone from Canada can't do that job.
Right.
And you have to like convince whoever your assigned officer is that there's nobody that you can hire that can do that job, and then you're allowed to hire out.
That's interesting because I was thinking of the one guy, one business owner that I know. He had a Georgian restaurant, but he did that same thing where he brought in a foreign chef. But he's like, this is literally the only Georgian chef in Canada.
See, that might be a good example.
Yeah.
That because no one here knows Georgian food.
Yeah.
If I was a fucking immigration officer that doesn't really know anything about Georgian food, I'd be like, yeah, that's reasonable to me.
And then he kind of got fucked over because he had a falling out with the chef, and he had a Georgian restaurant and without a Georgian chef. And he's like, I can't just go out and hire one. He's like, I literally got to fly to Georgia and find another one.
Wait,
He's
was
like,
he
fuck.
Georgian?
No.
Why did he start a Georgian restaurant?
Well, he was European, I guess, but he fell in love with Georgian food.
Okay, but he couldn't cook it himself.
Well, he could cook, but he wanted a genuine, honest to God Georgian chef.
I like Georgian food.
and
What do
it's
they
still-
have? Like
it's
corn?
Yeah,
There's a nice restaurant on Corydon.
that's the one I'm
Corn-
talking about.
Oh, it's
Saparavi,
it's
yeah.
amazing. Yeah,
Corn and
Yeah, that's the
and
guy.
shrimps.
Good.
Where's Georgia? Between Alabama and
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes, 100%. So, anyways, I actually want to cover this fucking thing that I have, but we're gonna take a fourth shot because that's what we do.
Well, okay, no, we're taking a 4-shot because I noted the alcohol percentages: 17% on Bailey's, 15% on creme de menthe.
Okay, so 4 is 1.
Is 1 shot, yeah.
Okay.
So we got to do 8.
I can
God.
do that.
Cheers.
Because
8
looks-
shots. Perfect.
Hey, we got a guest. I think we don't do a ton of guests. Maybe we want to do more,
Yes.
but I think guest episodes can probably go longer than our episodes.
Well, yeah, and
I
we're
think
short,
that's fair.
and currently we're shorter.
I try. Well, around an hour. Around an hour is usually when I switch over to the tip of the day.
And then it takes us a half hour to finish.
Literally. I've been trying to keep under an hour and a half.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough.
Because I think it's too long.
Yeah.
But I think with a guest, that might be an excuse to go a little bit longer.
Sure. Yeah. Fair enough. So one thing I wanted to bring up for no super particular reason,
Just to get me to rant about it.
like I alluded to earlier, hedge funds.
This kid just brought out a $2,000 iPad Pro just to have fucking notes.
No, it's a PDF. It's a document. It's a pitch deck that I'm going to show you guys, and also an article that I wanted to quickly skim over, read from. I'm not going to obviously read the whole fucking thing, but obviously there's a big problem. And I say problem, it's basically just the way things work. Nobody actually sees it as a problem, apparently, which is something you call soft corruption, which is politicians have, or, maybe networking. You call it networking. But, also when it's government.
Why'd you look at me when you said that?
Because you love networking.
I do love networking.
But when it's,
Hit me up, willows@shrug.com.
yeah, when you're talking about foreign governments and officials within those foreign governments networking and making friends and trading favors, that's what, like, you call it diplomacy, or do you call that corruption? Like, where's the line, right? And what we've learned in the last, I guess, couple months or couple weeks is that that line is clearly way the fuck behind whatever the Trump family was doing. I mean, like, they didn't even like play with the line. They didn't even flirt with the line. They weren't even being cute with it. They just like fucking blazed right over it, and they're like, yeah, this is what we're doing, and just did a big public
2024 presidential winner.
Absolutely, like that's why
Donald J. Trump.
that's the only reason this is really fucking relevant, is because
His family is still relevant.
Is because his family is still relevant and will probably be back in power in a very short period of time, right? So Jared Kushner, who married Trump's daughter, and who was in the White House for the sole reason of marrying the right person.
Who, for the record, is my real estate agent.
Right, Jared Kushner, yeah.
His name Jared Kushner. Just, I like to bring that up every time we talk about him. I don't know.
That's brilliant.
That's his birth name.
Well, Jared Kushner was a real estate guy.
Wait, it is, my real estate agent is Jared Kushner?
Yes!
Wait.
Don't let him listen to this podcast episode. We're about to sewer this bitch.
Sorry, Jared.
No, I'm kidding. He sewered himself. So he was, what he was quote-unquote famous for was the Abraham Accords. You know what the Abraham Accords are?
Yeah.
It was a peace deal done between
Lincoln.
principally Abraham Lincoln and the Accords and Honda Accord.
And Honda Accords, the car.
Yeah. No, it was peace deal between Israel and the Arab Emirates, which is a big deal, right?
The United Arab Emirates, thank you.
Sure. So MBS was actually deciding to normalize relations, and it was, long story short, it was mostly bullshit. And it was a nonsense political win for everybody, and it just allowed them to do what they were doing already in the quiet more publicly. So that was like one of the things that he did. But according to people close to the Trumps and to Kushner, he was like on a first name basis. Like they were texting buddies. Like they were staying up to 4 a.m. fucking texting, having like casual phone calls.
I imagine
like,
Jared Kushner is like lying on his stomach with his feet up in the air.
Yes, like swinging his feet.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming MBS is doing the same thing.
Who's this, MBS?
Mohammed bin Salman.
Oh, Mohammed bin Salman.
Yes, Mr. Salmon.
God King of Saudi Arabia.
Yes.
Yeah.
Also famously killed or ordered the horrible, brutal murder of Jamal Khashoggi. Yeah, an American journalist.
Yeah.
And like was executed and dismembered with a bone saw.
Yeah.
And was directly ordered by him. And during this period of time, is in an active text messaging relationship with Kushner. Like, this is happening at the same time, which is fantastic. And they're also, at the same time, managing this $110 billion weapons sale of, like, F-35s and top-level weapons that are now being used to, fuck up Yemen. And is that sales being done all at the same time.
Yeah, Saudi Arabia is genociding Yemeni people.
And they asked Trump about this. They're like, they're talking sanctions.
For the record, our Prime Minister Justin Trudeau also sells weapons to Saudi Arabia.
Absolutely, 100%. So while this is happening, people on both sides of the aisle are like, fuck, this is terrible, like, this looks really bad. We shouldn't be selling them a ton of weapons when they're committing human rights atrocities and killing our journalists for basically writing a column about democracy, was what he did. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't even like, he was critical of the crown, but he was also just writing about democracy, principally. So while this is all happening, he's buddies with Kushner. And so Jared Kushner does not, I don't believe he actually had a official White House post for a while, but he worked in foreign policy mostly. And everything that the Trumps did, they did for self-enrichment, and which is like, okay, yeah, sure, all politicians do that, right? Like, they run for office, they make a bunch of money, they get a lot of influence, they trade favors, which is like, which is why I said soft corruption. Everyone kind of accepts that, like, that's kind of the reward. Like, you're president, let's say Obama makes a bunch of money selling books afterwards. Like, he gets to cash in on his clout, right? So everyone kind of accepts that's like, it's kind of, you're not supposed to be a celebrity as a president, but I mean, it's kind of okay. Like, that's not super evil. Yeah. So the Trumps are like, fuck that. We can do much worse. And so Kushner, 6 months after Trump is out of office, he opens up a private equity fund. So private equity fund is basically a corporation that you give money to, and then they invest your money. Mm-hmm. So you can only do this if you're a private equity firm. You have to file with the SEC. Like, you have to be doing everything above board, right? You can't just be taking people's money and just stealing it or investing it badly, right?
Unless you want to invest in the alcohol beyond this point private equity fund, hit me up.
Yeah, exactly. So he started a group called Affinity Partners, and it was basically with like some Timbuktu fucking general that doesn't know shit and a bunch of his like political shills that were around him. And by and large, a bunch of people that don't know fucking anything about managing money or how to invest it. So they were going to solicit a massive amount of money from the prince, and God, why is this being so difficult? So they were going to solicit a massive amount of money, and when you're doing a deal this big, like we're talking billions of dollars, when you're doing a deal this big, you bring in a third party to evaluate this firm that's going to take your money and go and invest it. So a panel did evaluate it, and this is a panel made up of a bunch of Saudi business people. This is the former, I think one of the, like a former big tech CEO, I think it was like maybe IBM CEO or like something like that. So it's a well-versed panel. So they went and evaluated Kushner's pitch deck that we're going to look at here and his value offering. And
he brought this iPad specifically so we could show
He brought this iPad. No.
I'm talking about you, Tyler.
Oh. So their conclusions were this. The panel that forms due diligence for the Saudi fund concluded Kushner's firm was a joke. The management...
He used that word?
Yes. No, this was their report.
This is the official PDF report you're reading, right?
No, this is the official statement from the panel that evaluated this PDF. That read the same thing that we're going to look at, plus actually did a deep dive into all the people that are inside of it.
And they said, quote, a joke.
Yeah, I'm not gonna do a deep dive, but I'm gonna say people that are smarter than us said this.
Have you poured through the data yourself?
Yes, we're going to. That management was inexperienced, and that the kingdom would be responsible for the bulk of the investment and the risk. And current to date, they have more than 85% of the fund consists of money from MBS. Still today, and so the kingdom would be responsible for the bulk of the investment and the risk, and that its fees, like the firm's fees, were excessive, and that the firm's operations were unsatisfactory in every aspect. The panel warned that the country shouldn't give the former first son-in-law a dime.
Oh, wait, hold on. So this could have been some sort of grift. Like high fees for doing no work.
Yeah, in addition to all this is extremely high fees for a private equity fund. Yeah.
I wonder if that could be like a backroom deal. Like, hey, this is how we make it legal. This is how we take bribes legally. This is what you're concluding. As well.
He, on the American taxpayer dollar, he took an Air Force One trip to MBS's...
Probably Air Force Two, but yeah.
Right. Well, no, probably one because Trump was at home.
I don't think he can just go on it.
Okay, maybe two. Anyways, he took an Air Force whatever number trip.
Didn't Trump keep flying his own jet? I thought that was a thing.
Initially, I don't think they let him keep doing that.
He was like, Air Force One is dumpy. I'm going to take my own gold jet.
Yeah.
And then they're like, sir, this is not good for national security. He's like, I'm going to live in the Trump Tower. I don't give a fuck about living in the White House.
That didn't last very long.
Yeah,
I think after he got sworn in, it changed.
It's still pretty funny.
Yeah. But, so anyways, he made a trip. I think it was, like 10 days before the January 6th insurrection, like basically before the transfer of power was becoming official. He went to MBS's like house. There was no known...
Which one?
Yeah, right. There was no known agenda. There's no political agenda. They're like, he was just making like a personal, basically, house call. It's believed that like he made a lot of those actually going up towards the end. Like he didn't have any official capacity that he was fulfilling. Like they were just personal calls that he was doing on the taxpayer dollar with the veil of foreign policy, right? He was going to make presumably these types of deals. And the Treasury Secretary, Stephen Mnuchin, also opened a hedge fund and also received $1 billion from this same fund under the Saudi prince. To be fair, he's actually qualified. He's actually a qualified hedge fund manager.
How do we get Saudi money?
Like this.
Okay.
So fucking Kushner gets $2 billion after getting this review. This panel is supposed to be listened to, but it was overridden by MBS himself. Because he's giving his buddy some money. So I want to show you guys the pitch deck here. And just this, keep in mind, this pitch deck gave a new company with no experience, awful reviews, $2 billion off of this pitch deck. And you tell me how much you think it's worth. So, first impressions. That's the first slide. It's fine.
So right now he's showing me a Affinity Partners with a nice little logo. Like it's a simple, just
Black
very,
and white.
Very basic black and white. Nothing too offensive so far. Okay, that looks like Arial font.
You want to read it?
Accelerating transformation through connectivity. That doesn't make any sense.
What does it mean?
They're
It means fucking nothing,
they're
Willows. It means
accelerating-
nothing at all.
Okay.
We're going to move on.
Now, so
Third slide.
hold on. I just want to say that the way this is laid out is like a bad PowerPoint presentation so third slide just says the opportunity. So I imagine him in front of this on a projector being like, the opportunity. Next slide. Like,
I imagine he's doing this while like
Pushing?
hammered. Yeah. And he's not even paying attention because he knows he's going to get the money anyways.
there's a bunch of like naked Saudi princesses and he's doing
I can't even make sense of this one.
Okay, so now he's showing me what looks almost like a pie chart, but none of them mean anything. Like nothing. This is ridiculous. Show the camera quick. If you're watching the video version of this podcast,
You got to put these slides up. I'll send you this PDF.
yeah, he'll send me these PDF. I'll throw these slides up. But this is ridiculous. This doesn't make any sense.
So it's
And-
like got some
and-
arrows.
And I will say the logo of the hedge fund has been on every single slide so far.
Yeah. This looks like a standard, like when you open up
Template.
PowerPoint
A
and
template.
you look at like not even like the good ones, like the standard ones.
Yeah, you got to pay for the expensive
And then
ones.
they just made everything black and white
Yeah.
and just superimpose their logo and then put it on every corner. So he talks about and this slide, I'm just going to read it because it's not very much on it. Our unique experience and perspective allows us to tie macro and government policy trends to economic themes and investment opportunities.
Margaret's
For
checked
the
the fuck
record, there's not a single person in this company that has any experience with doing exactly what this says. Taking macro and government policy trends to economic themes, tying those two things together. They don't have a single fucking person who has any experience or education in that.
Skip to the good part.
Um,
Margaret's bored, so the audience is bored too.
I don't know what macro policies are. I'm not sure.
You're a doctor.
Yeah, but of botany.
So, you guys know from so we're talking about foreign policy and we're weighing in, and because we have a doctor expert on the podcast, obviously our opinions are correct.
This is my favorite.
It just
Oh, I
overall.
like this.
It's
So-
That's pretty.
it's a mind map graphic.
Yep.
Even traditional industries will be transformed by new technologies in the next wave of industrial revolution. Innovation is crossing borders and changing society. Our approach. Affinity carries out.
Why is this public? Why do we have this?
This is a big journalist. This came out like a couple days ago.
This is like leaked.
Yeah, this is leaked.
Yeah. Okay.
So Affinity carries out a thorough and in-depth assessment of potential investments and examines a range of quantitative and qualitative
I
factors.
know
okay.
those words.
So,
It means fucking nothing.
But
Is
so
what
here-
it means.
but
I know
here's
what
a-
qualitative means.
so here's the thing. We're
Yeah.
we're business owners. You've written PhD thesi, multiple theses.
No, just
Thesi?
one. A dissertation and a thesis.
Okay, whatever. You've written. We all know what bullshit looks like. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and
You've written school papers. You know when you need to like pad the school paper to like you're not at you need a 5,000 words and you're at 450 or
You
4,000.
just
Right?
fucking bullshit.
You just start making bigger words. You're like assertion and all those
Yeah.
big words, right?
I had to review a few
But-
articles before. I have
Dude,
an idea of what to look for.
Some of the
Yeah.
best business pitches that I've ever gotten in my life were
3 sentences or
Three
less.
I was just gonna say 3 sentences. That's funny. Yeah, the project I haven't talked about it on air yet. I can't yet, but the project, you know what I'm talking about. The project I'm working on right now came to me with somebody with an Instagram DM of like 2 sentences
Yeah.
and no fucking formal presentation or anything. And now it's like turning into an actual thing. It's like
Like if you can't say it convincingly in 3 sentences, you don't know what you're talking
Yeah,
about.
or,
And this is an entire slide deck that doesn't say anything.
I always say, like, if you can't explain what you do for a living in 10 words or less, it's a scam.
True.
Or even, I would even say 5 words or less. I sell wine. That's what I do.
Yeah.
Like, that's it.
Yeah.
Right. But then you talk to these fucking MLM type guys that are like, oh well, you know, I'm
It's about the vision, bro.
I'm
It's
lifting
culture.
up the you know whatever fucking Jared Kushner's pitch deck just said. I'm bridging the gap between. It's like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like,
Yeah, it's
I
completely
sell
nonsensical.
wine.
So what you really need to get out of this is if you want to become a billionaire, this is what it takes.
Mary Rich.
This slide deck. No, it's just this slide deck.
Okay, so
Clearly he earned that money on the merits of his skills.
so here's what we're gonna do. Is we're gonna
Clearly.
transfer here to the last segment that we call tip of the week. Tip of the week. Kendrick just announced he's releasing a new album.
I was going to say he just DM'd you and thanked you for the shout out.
No, if you don't know, the reason I do that tip of the week is because it's a fucking Kendrick Lamar and Baby Keem song, and I just thought it was the funniest thing. I'm not the biggest Kendrick fan, but like I respect what he does for the game. But he has this fucking song with Baby Keem where he's like top of the morning, and I fucking was. I thought people were, not photoshopping, but like for audio, like when it came out, people were posting it on Twitter, and I thought they were like mixing it.
Yeah.
Like he said it once, and they were just looping it, and I'm like, oh, that's kind of funny. And then I listened to the actual official fucking song on Spotify, and he's like, top of the morning, and it's like, I'm like, what the? I was literally crying laughing. Anyway, so that's tip of the week. That's the joke. Anyway, Kendrick just announced he's releasing a new album.
Great.
And you know why? Somebody, I forget the fucking I'm kind of involved in hip hop Twitter, but not really. Shout out Joey Hip Hop and Hip Hop by the Numbers. Those are my two guys. But somebody in hip hop Twitter tweeted Kendrick Lamar is retired. Kendrick retweeted it, and this is like some 40,000 follower hip hop Twitter kid, right?
Yeah.
Kendrick retweeted it with a fucking link. You click on the link, and it's like teasers for his new album.
Nice. I
And
was
it's
going to say it was just that was the official release of his new album.
Yeah,
That was
no,
it. That was the whole thing.
So this happened yesterday, and so it's just like a bunch of folders, and if you go into folders, it's like different teasers and he's like, it is so funny. So then now this guy's like, I brought Kendrick out of retirement. Like, anyway, because
That's
Kendrick
awesome.
hasn't released a fucking album in 6 years, but whatever. Anyway, tip of the week.
Yes.
This is the segment. So Tyler, if you want your segment, your tip of the week to be make a shitty pitch deck, I will allow that.
I'm going to say marry a Trump or a Trudeau or Trudeau's...
a Kennedy, right?
I was going to say or Trudeau's cousins, the Castros.
His parents. you
Sorry,
mean.
step siblings.
Yeah.
The Castros. Or no, his step siblings, the Trudeaus. His real siblings, the Castros.
Wait,
Obviously.
obviously.
I would say, JL, this nobody knows this reference, really convinced me. We're talking about education and just like how it lines you up for success in the world, because like society is built around keeping people out, and just like it's throwing up barriers, and just to see who, the more barriers you overcome, the more quote unquote worthy or better person you are. And if you make pitch decks, I'm kidding. That's not where I'm going at all with this. No, if you get 4 PhDs like Margaret, and you come from another country, and you you can't really land on your ass if you have a PhD. And you can, but not for long. Like you can go out and if you go and start filling out resumes and you try to go find a job, I can guarantee you that you are going to get a higher paying job than me or Willows could go and get without a PhD, right?
I don't know if you care if I say what your salary is right now.
Roughly, you can. Yeah.
You-
It's
okay.
an estimation.
You're not a citizen of this country, and they offered you a job within over $80,000 in 1 year.
Yeah.
One of 7 jobs.
And that's one of your 7 jobs. But also they
Main
could
job.
they could have surmised based on I said she pays 50% in taxes.
Yeah, you could also figure it out from that.
You can Google
Yeah,
what the Canada's tax rate is and figure out how much money she's making.
this is true.
But you're not even a citizen of this country. Not that really matters, but whatever. But you got a job offer for more than $80,000 a year. I can earn, like Tyler and I earn more than that, but that's because we have weird skills that translate into, the I don't want to disparage you, but you didn't have the skills. I don't want to say that. I'm not trying to say that, but like just having the PhD probably got you in that position.
Yeah.
Right?
I think so. Too.
Or at least,
it was for something that wasn't even exactly what your PhD was relevant to, right?
True.
Well, you're teaching chemistry, right? You have
Yeah.
and you have a degree in chemistry.
I've got a degree in chemistry. I'm at the moment currently teaching chemistry to grade 10 to 12s.
And you were trained to be a teacher.
I'm trained to be a teacher as well at a private
school.
So yeah, I consider myself lucky.
Okay, so sorry, Tyler, your tip of the week. Wait, no, sorry, hold on. You're going back to school? Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying that we talk a lot of shit on school, but
Yeah.
I mean you cannot understate like the social clout you get from school, and I think that's kind of always what I respected most about university, or wanted the most out of university, was
Because you never even tried, right?
I never even went for it.
Yeah,
I
me
was
neither.
I was like queued up to go, but I never even got
I didn't
close to
even
pulling the
get to
trigger.
queued up to go.
Yeah.
I graduated with high school with a 48 average that they rounded up to a 50 because the vice principal said he didn't want to see me again. And after that, I never thought of school again.
No, like I could have gone to McGill, which is a fantastic
Yeah.
university.
Oh yeah, no, you were
Right? No, I
this
I
kid-
probably should
I
have.
know McGill.
No,
it's like prestige.
It's beautiful.
This kid, you before you met me, we're an honors student. You were top 3 in grades for your entire school. You didn't drink alcohol.
Nope.
You didn't do drugs.
Nope.
And then you met me.
Well, I mean, I
You're
felt
on the podcast.
I jumped off the wagon before I met you, but you really just
Encouraged.
you didn't yeah. So I was off the wagon, and you were like in the culvert in the ditch, and you were like the troll that wanted me to pay the toll
No,
to go steal the boys' hole.
boy's soul, Tyler. Anyway,
No.
But you know what I think it is, though? I think you definitely could have fallen in a position where you would have been much worse off. But I pulled you just enough into degeneracy, but I also had vision that I think
I'm
sculpted
gonna
our
I'm gonna
lives.
concede that my life is different.
I don't know what that means. Anyway, what's your fucking tip of the week?
My fucking point is that
Too much creme de menthe.
I think I also feel a little bit because I was also really misinformed about the
It's
nature.
a slur, but okay.
Oh god, I forgot about that. I was scammed.
Yeah, there you
I
go.
was misinformed. I didn't realize that.
I'll bleep it.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that that there's so many different types of degrees. Like for example, like an executive MBA is not the same as like a regular MBA.
I
It's
didn't
not
know
the
that.
same as a business
I didn't
degree.
know that
It's not
until
the
JL told us either.
yeah. It's not the same as Red River College getting a certification in business administration. Like
Yeah.
those are astronomically different things, and then you add like McGill on top of that. Like fuck, completely different conversation. So I was extremely. I was deeply misinformed and misled because not only did my parents not know anything about it, but also all the people that I asked were mostly idiots and people that didn't have any experience in that. Like if I would have went and talked to somebody from McGill, or if I went and talked to somebody with an MBA, or if I went and talked to somebody that ran some big company or law firm or whatever and said, hey, what's your opinion on this? I would have had a dramatically different outlook on these different things.
Do you
But
think that would have affected you?
absolutely it would have,
I think
because
when-
I'm thinking about my influences in this critical time
Yeah.
was MLM douchebags,
Yeah, when I
and
was,
they didn't tell me anything fucking relevant.
when
That's
I,
for sure.
When I was 18 years old, there's not a soul in the world that could have told me something different to change the path I was on.
Yeah, but I don't think that's a good personality trait.
No, you've been very clear on how stubborn I am.
No, I'm not that
I'm just
person.
saying-
I was a person that was like I was trying to break out of my situation,
You
and
needed
I
to
was
be molded, and the people molding you were molding you in the wrong direction.
yeah, I needed to be molded, and I needed some fucking leadership, and I needed some information,
I
and I
remember-
had none of those things.
You almost cried the other episode because you're like, I didn't think I'd end up as a contractor in Winnipeg.
Well, I think that there's some sad things about that, but
What's
there's
your
also
tip of the week? Fuck.
You keep interrupting me, and then you keep changing the subject.
He's getting to it.
I drank too much creme de menthe. I'm sorry. I'll stop for a
Christ.
second.
Too many
Willows.
Springbuckies.
My point is Willows. I'm kidding. I don't have a fucking point. I don't know what I'm talking about.
That's the segment. You have to have a point.
The tip of the week is get some better fucking advice. Don't listen to Willows.
I like it.
Or your MLM leader. Or get your information from a podcast, because God help me.
Didn't you just say don't get your information from Willows, and then you said get your information from a podcast?
I said don't get your information from a podcast.
Oh, okay, word.
Don't.
Okay. I will give my quick tip of the week. Don't get a PhD. Thank you.
Love it.
Do you have a tip of the week, Margaret?
I absolutely do. My tip of the week is you need to be passionate about what you do.
And
if you hate what you do, if you're not passionate about what you do, you are gonna hate what you do for the rest of your life. But if you are passionate about what you do, you will never work a day in your life.
that's what I was the most afraid of. It is cliched, but it's fucking true.
It's cliche, but it's true, because you know what? That my supervisor, you know who you are, actually told me that. I remember this so clearly.
I think the odds your South African supervisor.
No, obviously not.
listen to
I'm going to
this
send him the
podcast.
link. So I remember this very clearly. Me and one of my fellow students went on a field trip, and my supervisor was obviously with us. And he told us, he said, if you're passionate about what you do and you love what you do, you will never work a day in your life. And he was like, look at me. I'm getting paid for nothing. And we actually recorded him saying that. It was so funny at that time.
Did
so
he
we
say
were
it in English or Afrikaans?
No, he said it in Afrikaans.
Say it in Afrikaans.
What, the whole thing? That's a lot.
Say I'm getting paid for nothing.
Ek word vir niks betaal nie.
That's all I wanted.
So my tip is, and you know what, I agree with him, because if you're passionate about what you're doing, look at me, I'm teaching. I'm a doctor. Yes, I'm a doctor. I'm a PhD. I'm a teacher. But you know what? I fucking love it. I love teaching chemistry. I love teaching students. I love teaching young, growing adults. It's something I just enjoy, and I get a lot of satisfaction from it.
Oh, that's why you hang out with us.
That's why I hang out with you guys, because I'm teaching.
So we finally answered the question.
Whoa!
There we go.
When
Eureka.
when I said that, it that flinged on all three mics. I'm looking at the levels right now. Holy shit! When I just asked you at the beginning of the podcast,
Why do you hang out with
why
us?
you hang out with us
'Cause
idiots?
I'm a teacher.
And then see what I said?
Because
Give
we're
her
morons.
a fucking few drinks.
Because we're morons.
She wants to mold our fucking.
If you love what you do, you will never work a day in your life.
Which, to be fair, Willows, you may criticize that and say it's cliche, but you based your entire life on the fact that you love to drink and you made that your business. So.
I don't believe in what
You're
she
not,
said.
you're not working a day in your
No,
life.
you love to
basically,
drink and you
Willows.
made it your personality.
I don't believe. I don't believe in what she said, but that's a debate for another day. We're coming to the end of our show here. Is there anything that you would like to say to our audience, Margaret?
I think I just gave my tip of the day.
No, I know. I just anything.
just literally anything.
Anything else? I don't know.
You know what? Follow your gut. Follow your dreams.
She's just gonna repeat all the fucking inspirational posts.
no,
she has
seriously.
in her classroom.
No, seriously. You know what? Fuck what anyone thinks about you. Seriously, if
She
someone
also
tells
doesn't-
you,
this woman does not curse.
I never do, unless I'm drunk.
Ever, and then you give her a few drinks, and now she's like swearing more than I do.
Yeah, so take it from me. If someone underestimates you, see that as fucking inspiration to push you beyond your boundaries. If someone tells you cannot do it, do more. Seriously, that's what I've
Give
done.
Give us a Afrikaans send off right now.
What, like an Afrikaans saying?
Like,
or like,
like a farewell. Something you would say to your friends when you're leaving their house.
Like a cheers, mate. A toast.
Wah.
My favorite toast. May you get to heaven for a full 30 minutes before the devil knows you're dead.
All right. Here's a toast. My dad used to say this toast. My dad always says this toast, and we always laugh and shake our heads. In Afrikaans, he will be like, "Chort sê die donkie, duur trek die vark. Adam en Eva is laat vir die mark."
Which means?
It's like, cheers to the donkey. There goes the pig, Adam and Eve is late for the market. I know it doesn't make any fucking sense, but in Afrikaans it sounds good.
It does. It has a nice cadence. It did have a nice cadence to it, but I love that it's nonsensical. And I love Afrikaans because it actually reminds me of Low German, which my family speaks. Which I guess kind of has similar roots.
It does.
It sounds made up. It sounds like it sounds like you're fucking around, and I love the language.
Low German's really similar to Yiddish.
Yeah,
which I don't know how that started.
That's Jewish.
Low German basically is just the language of the Mennonites. That's been like it started off as German and then was influenced by every language and culture that they subsequently interacted with. Yeah. So like the Low German of my generation is different than the Low German of people that came from Germany.
Yeah.
And my generation is the one that came from Mexico and Russia.
Yeah.
So like the Russian Mennonites are very different than the German Mennonites and so on. So there's a lot of different types of German, right? But basically there's like a lot of Spanish in it and Dutch and Russian and Ukrainian.
Yeah, Low German's a weird, cool language to hear.
A lot of English as well.
I'll go out to farms in Manitoba here, and there's fucking Mennonite colonies that only speak Low German.
Mm-hmm.
Like they teach their kids in Low German first, and all these kids will be speaking it to each other. So interesting.
It's a funny language, dude.
It's fun. Yeah, it's interesting because
it's not a written language. Like you just spell it phonetically like it sounds, and it's fucking hilarious to read in text messages.
You ever like listen to a language, you're like, oh, that's definitely Spanish. That's definitely Italian. You listen to this language, you're like, what the fuck are they saying? Like, it's just so weird.
And then add the Canadian accent on top of it.
Yeah, weird Southern Manitoba accent. Anyway, thank you for listening to the podcast, Alcohol Beyond This Point. You can follow us, Alcohol Beyond This Point on Instagram, Alcohol Beyond This Point on podcast on Facebook. Where can they find you? Do you want? That's number one.
They can.
Do
Absolutely.
you want them to find you?
They can find me. I'm on Instagram at I'm Hulley, initials IM and surname HULLEY. I'm on Facebook as well with the same username.
Boomer.
True.
Thank you. Follow me.
We've never had someone drop their Facebook on the podcast.
Why not?
That's funny though. That's fine.
The only reason, this is the last thing I'll say, and then we really got to go. The only reason I made a Facebook for the podcast is because I make a Facebook for every business I run, because I guess my main customer base for my winery is wine moms.
Yeah.
My fucking interaction rate on Facebook is like twice Instagram and like 5 times Twitter. Facebook is where I make all my fucking money.
It's because you don't have any bikini girls.
Ooh. I'm a bikini girl.
Okay, that's enough. Cut it.
Alcohol Beyond This Point podcast.
This isn't two podcasters talking business. This is two business guys trying to podcast.